When my grandparents Nana and Papa perished in a fire a few months ago, I was devastated. I just talked to my Nana on the telephone the day before. I was away at college getting ready to take my final exams before coming home for the summer. The last thing Nana said to me was that she couldn't wait for me to come home to spend time with her and Papa. She looked forward to me coming home every summer to help them out on the ranch. My parents only live a few miles down the road, so I go over to my grandparents' ranch every single day. My favorite thing about the ranch are the horses. I enjoy anything that has to do with them. I love to feed and brush them, but most of all, I love to ride. My Nana used to love to watch me ride. It filled her with so much joy inside. My parents decided not to tell me about their passing until after I took my exams and returned home. They didn't want me to get distracted from my dream. I'm a sophomore at Penn State University, and I'm studying to become a veterinarian. When my parents picked me up from the airport, that's when they broke the bad news to me. I broke down. Nana and Papa were very near and dear to my heart. They practically raised me. My dad used to be in the armed forces when I was a little girl, and my mother worked 2 full-time jobs, so they were gone quite a bit, and I was always with my grandparents. I was very angry at them for a while for not telling me right away, but eventually I came to understand why. Their house burned down during the fire, but I took care of the ranch and all of the animals all summer and kept everything intact. My parents wanted to sell the land, but I argued with them, begging them not to. I wanted something to remember Nana and Papa by. Fall arrived before I knew it, and it was time for me to return to college. Right before I left to go back, my grandparents' will was discovered in the safety deposit box at the bank. Most of their things were gone, perished in the fire along with them in their home, but they still owned land and a summer vacation house in Fargo, North Dakota. They left everything to their 2 daughters, my mom and my Aunt Judy. And to me, their one and only beloved granddaughter Maggie, they left 2 dolls. Nana and Papa had cherished them dearly. They always gave me the creeps when I was a little girl, but the older that I got, I became rather fond of them. I must admit, I was rather upset that the dolls were the only thing my grandparents left me, but I would soon come to find out why I inherited them. Mom wanted to clean out their vacation home in North Dakota as soon as possible, so we headed up there a few days before I had to return to school. It was supposed to be their vacation home, but it looked more like a storage shed when we arrived. There was stuff packed up in boxes and bags just sitting everywhere. The dolls were supposed to be somewhere in all of the clutter. I'm not sure why, but Mom kept insisting that I take the dolls back to school with me. My plan had been to keep them at her house in the closet in my room. I didn't want to take them back to school with me. I had a roommate, and I'm almost certain that they would creep her out, not to mention anyone else who came over to our dorm. We got started sorting through all of the mess. Most of it Mom said was trash, and the furniture we decided to donate. Even though I didn't want to be there, I felt Nana and Papa's presence, so it made me feel happy. Once it started to get dark, Mom says that we might as well spend the night since we weren't even halfway done going through everything. I wasn't thrilled about the idea, but I didn't disagree. So we drove into town to pick up some dinner. Mom asks me, "What do you want?" "Pizza. Did you even have to ask?" I reply with a grin. Anytime I had a say in what we were going to eat, it was always pizza. It's been my favorite food for as long as I can remember. I let out a laugh. Mom curiously asks, "What's so funny?" I answer, "Remember that time we let Nana call to order pizza?" Mom giggles and says, "Yes, I remember. She ordered anchovies on it instead of pepperoni." We continue to laugh until we almost cry. The funny thing about it is that my dad is allergic to anchovies, but we didn't know it until that night. His face swelled up like a balloon, and we had to rush him to the hospital. It was scary at the time, but now whenever we talk about it, we all laugh at the situation. "I miss them," I suddenly blurt out as a single tear rolls down my cheek. I hadn't talked much about Nana and Papa since they died, but I thought about them all of the time, almost every single day. "Me too, sweetie," Mom agrees as she removes her right hand from the steering wheel and squeezes my hand gently. "Do you think about them?" I ask. Mom responds with a smile. All of the time. I think about all of the good times we had together and all of the funny times, just like the anchovy pizza. Then she adds, I try not to think about how they died. I reply, me too, but it's hard. Sometimes it just pops into my mind. I hope they didn't suffer. As we pull into the pizzeria parking lot, a rush of sadness washes over me. Nana and Papa were the only grandparents I had. My dad stopped talking to his parents many years ago, so they'd never been a big part of my life. Whenever they did come around on occasion, it felt like I was talking to complete strangers. They knew nothing about me. Mom ordered my favorite, a pepperoni, bacon, and sausage pie. I think she was just trying to cheer me up because Mom is a vegetarian. What are you going to eat? I question. She tells me, I'll just order some pasta and garlic knots for me. I walk over to the refrigerator and grab a 2-liter of Sprite. Just as the door slams closed, Mom tells me to grab a bottle of Diet Coke as well. We sit and chat while we wait for our food. She tells me that if there is anything else that I want at Nana and Papa's, just take it. Otherwise, it will most likely just end up in the trash. My Aunt Judy already said that she doesn't want anything. She just wants the house emptied out so that she can sell it as quickly as possible. I ask Mom, what are you going to do with their land and animals? She sadly replies, your Aunt Judy wants to sell them too. But maybe we can keep the animals. I'll call Dad when we get back to the house and ask him if it's all right. I was glad I would still be able to care for the horses and ride them whenever I wasn't away at college. I know that would make my grandparents happy too. I wondered why they hadn't left me the horses in the first place. They knew how much I cared for them. The cashier calls out our order number and we take our food to go. When we get back to the house, we sit out on the front porch in the swing and eat out there. I say to Mom, it's so quiet and peaceful here. I wish we didn't have to sell it. Mom doesn't respond. I think she agrees with me, but since my Aunt Judy is the oldest, she always gets the final say. It's been that way for as long as I can remember. I better go call Dad, she says, getting up from the swing and collecting her garbage. Then she heads inside. I can't hear the entire conversation, just Mom's side, but it seems like Dad doesn't want to take on the extra responsibility of caring for Nana and Papa's horses. It is a lot on top of already taking care of your own farm. We have cows, pigs, chickens, goats, and sheep. Dad doesn't know anything about caring for horses. Nana and Papa taught me everything that I know about them. But since I'd be gone at school the majority of the time, it would be Dad's job to care for them. I zone out and begin to daydream, thinking about what it'd be like to have my very own horse. Once I graduate, I could buy my own farm and build some stables. I could breed them and maybe even start a program where I could teach kids how to ride and care for horses. I snap out of my daydream when I hear the screen door close behind Mom. Good news, she tells me. I perk up, anticipating what she might say. Dad said we can keep all of the animals. Except, he said you can only pick one horse to bring home to the farm. That wasn't good news if you asked me. Nana and Papa owned 5 horses. I love them all dearly. How was I supposed to choose which one to take and which ones to leave behind? I sadly reply, okay. Later that night, while rummaging through more of my grandparents' things, I finally come across the dolls in an old dusty black trunk in the bedroom. The trunk was locked. It had to be opened with a key that Mom had found earlier in one of Nana's dresser drawers. I lift the woman doll out of the trunk first. Her hair is as white as fresh fallen snow. She's wearing a long-sleeved maroon dress with big gold buttons attached to the white floral front. She also has a set of pearls draped from her neck, and her dainty floral bonnet is tied tightly beneath her chin in a vibrant pink bow. She's peering at me with her dark brown glass eyes through a pair of gold-rimmed spectacles. I say out loud to myself, "You look so real." Then I gently place her on the floor next to me. Next, I carefully lift the man doll from the trunk. His hair is the same color white as the woman's, but he has bushy eyebrows and a well-trimmed mustache. He's wearing a black tuxedo with a bright pink flower pinned to it to match the flowers on the woman's hat. He has a tiny gold watch wrapped around his wrist. What really creeps me out about the man is that he's smiling and you can see his pearly white teeth. They look real, like itty-bitty baby teeth. I lay him down next to the woman and look back inside of the trunk. I see something deep down at the bottom, so I stick my hand back in and reach for it. It's a piece of paper folded in half. I unfold it and immediately recognize my Nana's handwriting. It says, "Maggie, if you are reading this, then that means Papa and I are no longer with you. I know you're probably wondering why we left you these dolls." I paused for a moment and smiled to myself, because that's exactly what I thought when I found out that I'd inherited them. I continued to read the letter. "These dolls are very near and dear to our hearts. They were made by a famous Italian doll maker to resemble my parents. You never got the chance to meet your great-grandparents. They passed away before you were even born. But they were wonderful people. We left them to you because you were the only person I trust to take care of them. It's very important that you keep them with you at all times, and you must make sure that they stay locked away in the trunk. Love, Nana and Papa." That's weird, I think to myself. Why do they need to stay locked away in the trunk? I could have sworn Nana and Papa used to have them displayed on a shelf or something when I was a little girl. That's how I remember being so creeped out by them. Mom walks in and taps me on the shoulder, startling me. She's holding a quilt. She hands it to me and says, "I thought you might want to keep this. Nana made this when I was a little girl. I used to cover up with it in the wintertime while I sat in front of the fire." I hold it tightly to my chest and inhale deeply, hoping to get a whiff of my Nana's scent, but all I smell is mothballs. I tell my mom yes, that I would like to have it. Then I place the doll safely back into the trunk along with the note and the quilt. We head into the living room to look through some old photo albums before getting ready for bed. Mom tells me that I can take any pictures that I'd like, as well as any of Nana's jewelry. That night, I don't sleep very well. I keep thinking about how mad Nana and Papa would be if they knew we were selling their home, land, and animals. Nana comes to me in a dream that night and tells me that everything is going to be all right. The next morning, I drag the trunk out to my mom's car and am shocked to see that the dolls are gone. I rush back inside in a panic and ask her if she moved them. She shushes me because she's on the phone. After hanging up a minute later, she stares at me in total confusion. I ask her, "Mom, what is it?" She explains that she was speaking to my grandparents' lawyer on the phone and they just discovered another will. This one is dated after the previous one that had already been read. It states that everything will be left to my mother, father, and I. Aunt Judy is left out of the will completely. My mom continues to stand there in shock. I hear a loud thud and nearly jump out of my skin when I see the dolls sitting peacefully on the couch. I walk over and grab them. How did you two get there, I think, as I head to the car to put them back into the trunk. I make sure to lock it this time. Mom calls Dad to tell him the news, and he says that we should hold off on selling the vacation house. He tells Mom after we get it cleaned up, maybe we could rent it out, and that money could help with taking care of the farm and all of the animals. Then he says that if everything works out, then we can keep all of the horses instead of just one. Mom and I finish cleaning out the house, then head back home and I get ready to go back to school. Until we decide what we're going to do with Nana and Papa's land, the horses are going to stay there and Dad will drive over every day to tend to them while I'm away. I won't be home again until November for Thanksgiving. I decide not to lug the gigantic trunk back to school with me. Instead, I put the dolls into a large luggage bag. When I arrive at my dorm room, I take them out and place them on my bed. My roommate Sheila hates them as soon as she sees them. "Where in the hell did you get those creepy things?" she asks with a shudder. I tell her that I inherited them from my deceased grandparents. "That's even creepier," she exclaims. Then she adds, "Well, keep those things far away from me. I get the chills just looking at them." I promise her that I will keep them put away. Then I place them back into the luggage bag, lock it, and drag it to the closet. Sheila invites me to a party that she's attending later that night. I tell her sure that I'll come. I need something to get my mind off of my grandparents. Later that evening, I get dressed for the party and decide to wear a pair of my Nana's earrings with my dress. I unlock the luggage bag and retrieve them along with the matching bracelet from a pocket inside. Then I quickly shove the bag back into the closet when I hear Sheila calling me from the hallway. "Are you ready yet?" she yells while peeking her head around the door. I yell back, "I'm coming," as I slip the earrings and bracelet on and then head outside. I have an amazing time at the party. I even run into my ex-boyfriend, Louis. We met when we were both freshmen in college and dated for 6 months. I broke up with him because I felt like a relationship was too much for me to juggle at the time, along with all of my classes and my job. He's a really nice guy, and I've often thought, did I make the right choice? We hang out the entire party. When I check my phone for the time, I see that I have 2 texts from my roommate Sheila. The first one says that she tried to find me at the party but couldn't, so she took a cab back to the dorm because she has to get up early the next day. The second says, "Your little trick wasn't funny. You scared the shit out of me." I text her back saying that I don't know what she's talking about. She replies, "You left those damn dolls on my bed. You know they creep me the hell out." I reply back denying it. She doesn't believe me. She asks, how else could they have gotten there? I tell Louis that I have to go, and he offers to drive me home. When I get to my dorm, Sheila's not even there, just the 2 dolls sitting on her bed. I call her to see where she is, and she tells me that she's staying with a friend for the night. She says that she couldn't bring herself to move them, but she couldn't stay here alone with them either. Louis walks over to the dolls and gazes directly into their eyes. "They look so real," he says, while rubbing their faces. I don't know why, but something tells me that they don't like having their faces touched. I know I wouldn't like that. So I snatch them off of the bed and place them back into the closet, then close the door. For some reason, Louis is fascinated with the dolls. "Where did you get them?" he asks. I tell him that I inherited them from my grandparents when they passed away. "Can I buy them from you? My mom's birthday is coming up and she collects dolls. She would love to add them to her collection." "No, you can't buy them. They're not for sale. They meant a lot to my Nana and I could never get rid of them," I tell him angrily. Then I walk him to the door, and to my surprise, he attempts to kiss me goodbye. But just as our lips touch, he pulls away and screams, "What the hell?" He points behind me as a look of fear floods his face. I turn to look at what he's referring to and see the dolls sitting on my bed. Louis, still pointing, trembles and says, "I swear I just saw you put them in the closet." I just stare, stunned. "I don't know how they got there," I tell Louis, shocked. He rushes out of there, down the hall, and a minute later I hear the sound of the lobby door slam shut and reverberate throughout the hallway. "What is going on with you 2? I ask the dolls as I again take them back to the closet and place them in the luggage bag. This time I make sure to lock the padlock. The next morning I get up bright and early to head to class. I don't see Sheila all day, and when I return to our dorm room later that afternoon, I find that all of her stuff is gone. There's a note on my desk from her. It says that she's moved into another dorm. She writes that she's just too freaked out by my dolls and she can't stay in the same place as them. Are you kidding me? They're just dolls. A week later, I get my anatomy test back, and there's a big fat D- at the top. I feel really bad because this is my favorite class, and Mr. Bennett is my favorite professor. Even though I didn't have time to study, I wasn't expecting to do this poorly. I felt like I knew the material pretty well. Mr. Bennett asks me to stay after class. When I approach his desk, he says, "This isn't like you." I answer, "I know, sir. Would you please allow me to retake it? I know I can do better." He gives me a hard time about retaking it. As I'm walking toward the door, he clears his throat and says, "Well, maybe I can make an exception." So I turn around and walk back over, prepared to set up an appointment for my retake. When I reach his desk, he stands up and leisurely places his arm around my waist, then leans in toward me. I jerk away and push him, dropping my books onto the floor as I scream, "What are you doing?" He answers, surprised, "I thought we had a connection." I shout at him, Yeah, you're my favorite teacher and I like your class, but it's nothing more than that. I can't believe you. I storm out of there as fast as I can, not even stopping to pick up my books. I return to my dorm and prepare for my internship interview. After showering and dressing, I decide to wear my Nana's pearls with my outfit. So I head to the luggage bag in my closet. I unlock it and retrieve the pearl necklace, bracelet, and earrings to go along with my navy pantsuit. When I return from my interview, I check my messages and see that I have received an email from my anatomy professor. He apologizes for his behavior today and says that if I would still like to retake the test, I can come to his classroom tomorrow morning before class starts at 8 a.m. I debate whether or not to go. I have the entire semester to bring my grade up. Would one test really make that much of a difference? I email back and tell him, never mind, I'll keep the grade that I earned. The next day when I get ready to head to my anatomy class, I receive another email, but this time it's from the dean. It states that my anatomy course will be canceled until further notice while they try to find a new professor to replace Mr. Bennett. Had my professor felt guilty about what he'd done yesterday? Had he quit because of that? Since my anatomy class is now canceled, I decide to head to the library to study. On my way over there, I get a call from my mom. Sweetie, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'm fine, Mom. Wait, you're sorry about what? I question, confused. She asks, haven't you heard? Didn't you see the news this morning? I confess, no, I overslept and had to rush so that I wasn't late to class. But then my anatomy class ended up being canceled anyway. She tells me, Maggie, Mr. Bennett was found dead in his loft early this morning. I know how close the two of you were. Yeah, he was my favorite professor. What happened? I ask. She answers, I'm not sure. All the news said is that he was murdered. Maggie, are you sure you're okay? I'm worried about you. It's scary to think that someone was killed not even a mile from your school. And you live all alone now. You don't even have a roommate anymore. I assure her, Mom, I'm okay, really. You don't need to worry about me. She replies with a laugh, that's my job. You'll understand one day when you're a parent. We say our goodbyes, and then instead of going to the library, I turn back around and go back to my dorm room. I immediately plug up my cell phone to the charger dangling from the outlet under my desk, and take a seat in my desk chair and begin to search CNN for the news of my teacher's death. I read an article, but it doesn't give me much information besides what my mom just told me. Next, I click on a video. It's an interview with his neighbor. He's the one who found his body. He gives a description of the scene. It was gruesome. There was blood everywhere. I pause the video when I think I hear my closet door creaking. I get up from my chair and walk over to the closet. After opening the door and peeking inside, I see nothing but darkness, so I close the door and go back to what I was doing. I click on another video. This one is an interview with the dean of my college. Mr. Bennett was a wonderful professor, one of our best. I can't believe something so heinous has happened to one of our teachers. We offer our condolences to his family, friends, and students. I stopped the video thinking to myself, this is so crazy. I'm not saying he deserved to die, but maybe he was trying to make a move on someone else like he did to me yesterday, and things went terribly wrong. Suddenly, I hear the closet door creaking again. This time when I get up to check it out, I find the dolls laying on the floor inside of the closet. I pick them up and whisper, this is so weird. How do you two keep getting out of that bag? I toss them back inside and make sure to lock the padlock. A week later, I'm lying on my bed studying when a girl strolls into my room. She drops her bags on the floor and plops down on the other bed. I assume it's my new roommate that I'd been informed I was getting any day now. I wait for her to introduce herself, but she just starts removing her heels and complaining about how exhausted she is. Finally, I stand up and say, Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm Angela, but you can call me Angie, she says without even looking at me. I try to engage in conversation with her, but get nowhere, so I go back to my studying. One day after class, I go back to my dorm and find the dolls sitting on my bed. I ask Angela why she touched my things and put them there. I didn't touch anything of yours. And who brings creepy dolls with them to college anyway? It's like you're asking to have no friends. They are the ugliest things I've ever seen, she says, cracking up laughing. My mom calls that night and asks about my new roommate. Angela and I don't get along at all. She's a snob and we're total opposites. I came to college to learn, and all she cares about are boys and partying. Most nights, she's not even here. I usually see her when she strolls in the morning and slams the door, waking me up. I think she does it on purpose just to let me know what she's been up to all night, I whine. My mom tells me to just give it some time and keep trying. That weekend, my ex Louis invites me to a Halloween party. Angela walks in on me while I'm getting ready. Nice costume, she sarcastically says while rolling her eyes. Then she asks, where are you going? I tell her that I'm going to a Halloween party and continue to curl my hair. She walks to the closet and begins to pull out items and lay them on her bed. It looks like she's trying to put a costume together, so I ask, what are you doing? She replies, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm coming to the party with you. I recall what my mom said about me being nice and trying to be her friend, so I say, okay. When I'm done getting ready, I ask Angela, how do I look? She quickly glances in my direction and responds, you look fine. I think that I look rather nice. I'm Captain Marvel this year, and I've been saving my money for months so that I could buy the authentic costume. What about me, she asks, doing a spin so I can get a 360-degree look at her costume. What are you supposed to be, I question. She tells me that she is a sexy vampiress. She's wearing a low-cut royal blue dress that is so short it looks more like a tight t-shirt. Her long black hair is flowing down her back, and her black knee-high, high-heeled boots make me think that she may break an ankle tonight. You look great, I tell her. She walks over to her dresser and pulls something out of the top drawer. Then she splatters fake blood all over her chest, arms, and legs. One more thing, she says as we get ready to walk out the door. When I turn around to see where she went, she's holding the dolls in her arms. Put them back, I scream at her. She says, oh, come on. We have to bring these creepy things. They'll be the life of the party. I scream, those are not playthings. They're my great-grandparents. She laughs and holds up the dolls. Well, how ugly these two are, I would hate to have seen them in real life. I snatch the dolls away from her. Ow, you scratched me, she yells. No, I didn't, I tell her as I toss the dolls back into the closet. She clearly has a fresh scratch on her arm, but I'm certain that I didn't scratch her. We walk to the party and Louis is waiting for me at the front entrance. Angela grabs him by the beard and seductively says, you didn't tell me he was so cute. I push past the two of them and go inside. As soon as I get through the door, the music is blaring and disco lights are flashing everywhere. I grab a drink and spot my old roommate Sheila across the room, so I head over there. I don't know what happened to Angela. We went our separate ways once we got inside. Although Sheila and I are no longer roommates, we remain friends after she moved out. She asks me about my new roommate, and I point out Angela to her. She's acting wild and loose in the middle of the dance floor. A second later, a group of guys approach her, and she begins dancing with all of them. I can tell that she's drunk. Great, I think to myself. I guess it'll be my job to drag her back to our dorm and deal with her puking all night and then being hungover in the morning. She leaves the dance floor and grabs another drink. Then she walks up to a group of people and snatches some random guy by the hand and starts to pull him toward the dance floor. When a girl, who I assume is his girlfriend, standing next to him gives him a dirty look, he pulls his hand free from Angela. So she walks back up to him and just starts dancing on him right there in front of his girlfriend. The girl shoves Angela, but she's too drunk to realize what's going on. Finally, she just walks away. I lose sight of her, but then about an hour later, I find her passed out in the corner on a couch. The strobe lights flash on and off, and when they come back on, I swear I see a doll head pop up from behind the couch. The lights flash off and on again, and this time I see my doll sitting on top of Angela's chest. My vision starts to get blurry, so I rub my eyes, and when I glance back up this time, Angela's flailing about and I keep getting glimpses of blood spurting in the air. I turn around and rub my eyes again, thinking, okay, maybe I'm the one who had a little too much to drink. I go to look for Sheila, but run into Lewis instead. That's when the lights kick back on and everyone starts heading toward the door. I ask Lewis if he can help me tow Angela home. He agrees, so I lead him over to the couch that I last saw her passed out on. We lift her up and she immediately collapses onto the floor. The partygoers who are still lingering behind start to laugh and stare. That's when I realize that there is way more blood on her than she originally had, and there's even blood all over me now. She's laying on her stomach on the floor, so I turn her over with Lewis's help and see that there are stab wounds covering her entire body. I begin to scream, "Oh my God, this is real blood! She's really dead!" Everyone is staring at me like I'm crazy. I saw who did it! It was the dolls! I saw them do it! While everyone is just standing there laughing, probably thinking that this is some kind of prank or something, I run out of there and back to my dorm room. When I get inside, I find them sitting on my bed waiting for me, and they are covered in blood. When I snatch the woman doll off of the bed, I feel something poking out of the back of her dress, so I flip her over and grab it. It's a note. I assume that it's been there all along and I just didn't notice it before. I begin to read. There is a tradition that has been in our family for a very long time. When a loved one passes away, there is a special ceremony that can be performed that transfers the souls of your loved one into a doll. That way they can live on and still watch over their family. However, the ceremony must be done by the deceased person's next of kin. I stop for a second. The word must is underlined 3 times. Then I continue to read, and it lists the directions on how to perform the ceremony. I gaze at the dolls thinking, so my mom must have performed the ceremony. I can't believe I didn't notice it before. It's as if I'm staring directly into her eyes. As I stare closer, I ask, "Nana, is that you?" I don't expect her to reply, but I nearly faint when she winks back at me. Subscribe for a new story Mondays, Wednesdays, and don't forget Saturdays. See you next time on
Gina's Nightmares.
Really? You're supposed to click the like button, not me. Ugh.